I can't log in for some reason, but I'm here. Councilmember King is here. There are no voting items, but we will take some public comment throughout the day. I think as people know, we move in a certain order, and today is largely kind of centered around the executive branch and certain departments in there. As Ms. Dory was saying before we got in here, the first kind of presentations are a little pro forma. They are what they are. So we'll let her kick off with the tax levy ordinance and the proposed millage rates. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, council members. First presentation we have is the tax levy ordinance and revenue budget for the year. You will have seen this in our executive budget as well as the REC we did earlier this last month. These are the millage rates from 2024 and 2025. As you can see, there has been no change. We were not in a quadrennial reassessment year, so nothing major to report here. Our revenue budget, as we've mentioned, was $776 million. And that's all I have on those, if council doesn't have any questions.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I want to ask is, not on the millages per se, but do we know, Courtney, when we're going to get numbers from the assessor on assessments and kind of how that then calculates to the total tax levy ordinance?
Yeah, I just saw that the Board of Review is scheduled, so I imagine once that concludes, they'll be able to give us their preliminary assessments, and we'll be able to make any adjustments we need to make in advance of the budget adoption.
Okay. And then should we say for safety and permits primarily why licenses and permits are scheduled to go down by over $1 million as part of the forecast?
I would defer to finance on that. I think I saw Romy.
Okay. Yeah, Ms. Samuel, I guess, look, I'm not trying to hide my cards at all, but two things. One is this budget right now calls for a decrease to code enforcement, safety, and permits. And number two, it just seems with all the activity that we're going to have next year, that number ought to be greater than 2024. So,
for licenses and permits?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we do have to consider any short-term rental regulations. If there were, I would have to defer to Tammy Jackson on that, on the short-term rentals. But I do know that there was a change in the law for ABOs that removed the processing fee, and that was of $1,000 for each alcohol beverage application, both new and renewal. So that could also have some impact there.
Okay, I guess, yeah. I think I'm gonna need Director Jackson to explain, because it would just seem like even with those, we would have increases just based on the volume of events we're projecting next year and natural growth irrespective of that. And I just want to make sure we know why.
Okay.
Members, any questions? My machine's broken right now, so just want to make sure on the millages or the revenue. All right, I didn't think so. All right, that concludes item, oh wait, hold on. Mr. Burnside, 2 minutes.
Hello, Council. I'm fully aware that this is about property tax and property tax levies, but I want to raise the idea that somewhere, someplace, we should have some kind of piece of paper about the sales tax, because we have the highest sales tax in the entire nation, and yet we don't get very much revenue. So it would be nice to know where a lot of that goes on a piece of paper for the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Burnside. All right, that concludes item number 1. Item number 2 is Board of City Trusts.
Board of City Trust, give a quick overview. The board's been established for a very long time. It primarily oversees trusts and donations to the city. This is the composition of the board. We've had a few board members roll off. They're still allowed to serve on the board after their term expires until somebody new is appointed, and we're working closely with the mayor's office to fill those seats.
How many are open, Courtney?
None are open, but it looks like a few have expired. So they just remain on the board until a new term is appointed.
I hear you. I guess let's ask about that to be changed, because I don't know that that's bad. I mean, somebody here's term expired in 2018.
Yeah, we'll continue to work with the mayor's office to get that board more current.
Thank you.
A couple of major items that the Board of City Trust undertook last year that are continuing on to this year are the Sophie Gumbel House. This was the update of the action that the board took last year. The bottom two bullets are the newest information. So the ordinance to draft the change of donative intent is going to be before y'all on October 24th, with a vote expected on November 17th. Once that concludes, we will begin the transfer of the property to Nora to solicit redevelopment. The other major property the board took action on.
Courtney?
Yes.
I'm not, I know that Mr. Schwartz wants that, but I'm not sure that's what's going to happen.
Okay,
Okay,
noted.
just I'm saying that out loud because I'm not sure that Nora is the right entity to issue the RFP with respect to this. Thank you.
Yep. The second property was 2021 Danielle Street. This is, again, the background on the action the board took last year. This current property, the appraisal came in significantly more than the swap that was intended, so they're working to add additional properties into the swap. Those are requiring some environmental reviews, so we're working through that process now. Once we have the final property swaps delineated, we'll start taking those next actions to make that a reality. This is just an update on the funds that fall under the purview of the Board of City Trusts. We are very close to abolishing a good chunk of these. DPW and the library have done a really great job. We're working with Director Nobles and Property Management to spend down a few of the funds that have been appropriated to them this year. Our goal is to zero all of these out by the end of this year, and then next year start working with the law department on the steps to abolish the funds, as they will no longer have any funding left.
Okay.
So in total, it's about $3.6 million, the current balance for all of the funds.
Will that all go to the general fund?
We will spend it, so it will go towards expenditures, and the savings will be realized in the general fund.
Okay.
Typically, yes. I would say the one public library donations is among one of the larger funds, as well as the Delgado funds. Those will continue to monitor and continue to work with those organizations to spend. Any questions?
Any questions, members, on Board of City Trust? That one's pretty mundane. All right, Department of Finance, you're up next. Thank you, Ms. Story.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It wasn't working. I have it. Thank you.
Me? Frida. You sit here. You sit here. Yes, ma'am.
All right, good morning, Ms. Samuel. Will you please introduce your team? I think we know almost everybody, but just want to make sure we all know.
Absolutely. Good morning. Romy Samuel, Director of Finance. The finance team, Lynette Doyle, Collector of Revenue. Frida Richardson Taylor, Assistant Director. Kai Wells, Interim Procurement Director. And Jesse Evans, Director of Retirement. We are missing Courtney Wilson. We're trying to find out she's delayed. She's coming in now. Ms. Wilson is the treasurer for the city of New Orleans. And we'll begin with
We're on number 3. We're on Department of Finance. Yes,
Ready?
please. Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
We'll begin with Bureau of Revenue.
Good morning. Our progress on our 2024 department goals. Our first goal for 2024 was to go live with our new sales tax system, including licenses and customer service system by the third quarter of 2024. We have accomplished that goal on time. We went live with our new revenue system July 8th, 2024. Our second progress point, reallocate revenue resources to prioritize tasks such as increasing collections utilizing our new system functionality. That's a continuous process, and we're continuing to reallocate our resources to improve our overall efficiency and effectiveness in the Bureau of Revenue and to provide a greater customer service experience. Our third departmental goal for 2024 was to launch efforts with the State Department of Office of Debt Recovery for final sales tax assessment collections. We have also entered into and finalized our agreement with the Office of Debt Recovery to pursue our tax collection efforts on behalf of the Bureau. This means that utilizing ODR will help to maximize our collection efforts using state and federal resources. Any questions?
Not on that. Let's see from council members. Thank you. Also, thank you. I just want to commend the department too for the transparency. I think as the public can see in what's that? In the presentation, there's goals, and then at the end, it's green, yellow, or red. And I appreciate just the fact that the department recognizing things are work in progress. Thank you for that. All right. Okay, Councilmember Morel. And my machine's working now if members want to hit the request to speak button.
We get ready to present this slide right now.
Right, this is the second.
Okay. Courtney.
Good morning, Courtney Wilson Renthrow, City Treasurer. For 2024, some of our goals included developing multi-agency educational resources, as well as workshops to expand taxpayers' knowledge and promote transparency. One of the biggest things that we implemented were additional inserts with our property tax bills, which included inserts giving directions for payment options, as well as details relating to Act 718, which was required by the council last year as well. So we have implemented those changes with the tax bills. We've also improved our website to include greater details, allow taxpayers to communicate a little bit easier with us. One of our goals for 2024 was also to continue the efforts in the implementation of the citywide iNova cashiering expansion project. We did roll out to 2 additional departments last year, and we intend to complete that project this year with the remaining departments. Any questions?
Yes. So I know we've had some interaction on the vendor sales tax for festivals. And one point of frustration that we've gotten over and over again is that there have been inconsistent answers to inquiries. I think that could be cleared up with the fact we are in the process of collecting all of the questions that vendors have to provide them to you. And then perhaps if you can answer all the questions, that would create a fact that vendors could use that the festival organizers can then disseminate to the vendors. One issue, which is an issue, is, and I'll use Forestry as an example, many of these festivals are required to and do provide a tent or a location for you guys to set up. The frustration the organizers have is once the tent's set up, from their perspective, those revenue people do not interact with any of the actual vendors. And with the bond requirement being in place, the whole reason why we make them pay to have you guys on site is to go interact with the vendors to check their permits and make sure that they're doing work on the front end so that the organizers don't get dinged with the bond on the back end. I don't know what the policy is there, but I do think if we're going to require vendors to provide and have the tent set up, those individuals on site at the festival actually have to go check the vendors and interact with the vendors. Otherwise, it's meaningless. Otherwise, you're just paying for a tent for some people to hang out at the festival. So I don't know what the internal policy is there, but from Ferret Street, that was their observation, that the revenue people didn't actually proactively go and interact with the vendors.
Okay.
So that's just my feedback on, I know you're working on that, but that's my feedback on that particular section. Thank you.
Okay.
You good, Lynette? 2024 department goals for accounting. We are nearing the completion of the implementation, 85% complete for our standard operating procedures, and that will be completed at the end of this year, December 2024. We successfully completed our fiscal year 2023 audit by June 30th, 2024, and we reduced our audit findings from 3 to 1, which is a 67% decrease. And we continually have the ongoing dedication of paying 100% of our general fund invoices within 30 days. And so far in 2024, we are 90% of paying our general fund invoices within 30 days in 2024, which is a 5% increase from 2023. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yes.
As it relates to our progress on our 2024 goals for the Bureau of Purchasing, in terms of streamlining the processes to support the maintenance and repairs of city facilities, the Bureau of Purchasing released 70 trade ITQs to secure vendors to provide a range of maintenance and repair services, including but not limited to HVAC, electrical, roofing, plumbing, and window and glass, drywall and plastering, flooring and tile, and fencing. Of those 70 trade ITQs, 26 currently have active contracts, and 39 are in the post-bid or contracting phases, and 5 were canceled. Regarding the launching of a procurement forecasting tool to help our vendor community to prepare to participate, a procurement forecast survey was developed and was utilized to produce a list of upcoming opportunities, which was distributed to the 440 attendees of the 2024 procurement fair, which was hosted on June 18th of 2024. As it relates to educating newly certified DBEs on how to find and participate in opportunities, in conjunction with Propeller and the Office of Supplier Diversity, the Bureau of Purchasing participated in several DBE boot camps. During those boot camps, certified DBEs were educated on how to register as a supplier, how to find and respond to opportunities in brass, and how to submit an invoice in brass. Any questions?
Go ahead, Councilmember Moreno. I have questions too. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is around the responsible bidder ordinance that we passed in 2021. We're still waiting on the rules for that. Mr. Julian has constantly said they're coming. Obviously, Mr. Julian's no longer here. When can we expect the rules to move forward with the responsible bidder ordinance?
I'm going to have to look into that. So far, we have applied a questionnaire to the ITBs for the responsible bidders, and we're intending to apply that also to the bids. But I'm going to have to look into the rules.
Yeah. Once again, it's been since 2021, and we've still been waiting for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to take maybe a further step back, and I realize this isn't you, but the CAO's office has been telling us since the beginning of the year that there was going to be a more clearly defined process for RFP issued, how things are going, whose ball it's in, is it in procurement, is it in law department, is it with the department, and I'm going to look down the road. I haven't seen that yet, and I'm trying to avoid codifying that, but if we need to do something, I guess where I'm leaning is because I think Net 30 has worked out so well, is if we need to do the same thing, which is, hey, this is started on, I'm just going to pick an arbitrary date, February 1, and now we're at October 8th, and it's still in process. Why has it been held up for all the way? So I just wanted, and I realize, Ms. Samuel, you're new to the role too, but I think that's important to all of us, as I know it is to finance too.
Absolutely. We are actively working. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting on the same topic yesterday and have a meeting, or our plan to have a meeting today. We're actively working on those changes. Naturally, there's a transition. Mr. Mayor did provide some recommendations prior to him leaving, that we were all in discussion with CAO as well as the law department to make sure that we're in compliance. but we are actively working on that. So I think it's something that we will get you an answer to, but give us a little more time.
Okay. I mean, I'm willing to be a little more patient. Is part of that also looking at correlating what state requirements are with also, I see Frida shaking her head big time, yes. Because, yeah, that's the other problem too, is that we put things out to an RFP process and our dollar amount is so low, whereas the state has higher one. And look, we just want to make things easier for y'all.
Absolutely.
Absolutely,
Okay,
yes.
so that's other piece of it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, retirement.
Good morning, Jesse Evans, Director of the Retirement System. Progress on 2024 goes. In 2024, what we really wanted to do is was shore up our pension-specific accounting system as well as our member management system. So what we did was, via an RFI, we actually engaged a number of pension plans across the country as well as some of the pension providers. And what we determined is that if we looked at some of our internal providers that we had currently on roster, some of the things that our auditor and some of the other entities had and that our auditor encouraged, we actually had some of those opportunities within our current providers. So we initiated some of those, which to the delight and I guess encouragement of our auditor, it actually shored up some of the accounting items that we had. Also on the member management side, we also initiated some security items. So what we're determining is that we're probably going to be able to issue a much more streamlined RFP as it relates to what we thought we would. This will, again, ensure more accounting-specific items as well as better member management. The second item is something that's going to always be a goal for us annually, is to attain the Certificate of Excellence for Public Pension Plan Reporting and Transparency. This is actually issued by a national organization, the National Conference on Public Employee Retirement System, NCPRS, a national organization. We again attained that particular certification of transparency. It furthers our commitment to an atmosphere of openness between pension plans and the public. So again, that will always be a goal for us each and every year. So you'll see that also when we get to 2025. Fourth item for the retirement system, we want to expand the actuarial analysis of the plan to include more detailed view of the financial health of the plan. So there's actually some items that were actually issued by the actuarial environment this year that require more detailed, I guess, transparency items that were required in pension plans. We went a step further. We looked at our asset volatility, which are our assets. We look at our investments as well as the contributions that come in from the city and from the members. So those are our assets. We then looked at our liability volatility. The liability is actually the pension payments that we owe to members. So looking at that asset volatility and that liability volatility, we're going to be able to better judge what contributions are going to be coming in, which in turn will help us better long-term manage the plan. So that was a step further than what the industry required. The board looked at the volatility of both of those items. And then last, provide an attractive, sustainable retirement plan. Pension plans are a dying breed. To be able to guarantee an employee a lifetime, and his or her beneficiary, a lifetime benefit is something that, again, is not sort of the going trend. We want to be able to continuously provide an attractive plan for both prospective and current employees to both retain our good employees as well as attract new talent to the plan. So again, to be able to provide an attractive retirement system as part of the overall benefit package that the city offers is what we strive to do. With that, open up for any questions.
Councilmember Morell has a question and I have a question.
Yeah, I guess my question is, because I get the calls consistently, what is your practice of communicating with current retirees?
Primarily, the mechanism is via the monthly statement. So, of course, they can always call us. We're always available for a call. They can always email us. But I guess if you're speaking of in writing, we send out a monthly statement that has notes or announcements that we may have as it relates to.
Well, for example, as you know, previous to last year, the ability to issue cost of living adjustments was pretty much non-existent.
Absolutely.
And we changed the language to allow prudently for there to be occasional or at least a analysis and contemplation of cost of living adjustments.
Correct.
The challenge is when I'm talking to retirees, A, they don't know the law has changed, and B, they're still approaching council members for cost of living adjustments when we don't actually issue them, you do.
Correct.
So I think that there has to be a gap in communication between you guys and the retirees because from my experience talking to dozens of them at this point, they don't understand what's going on as far as, because obviously on one hand, they were used to not getting COLAs because a previous council had made the
high hurdle.
high hurdle would be an understatement, pretty much an impossible hurdle.
Right.
I mean, the solvency of your system would have to be greater than any other retirement system in the country to issue a COLA, which I feel like was intentional at the time to make it so retirees could never get a COLA. Now that we've repaired that, I think it would be important, A, to communicate to retirees, probably in writing, because most of them get it that way, that A, the law was changed. B, you guys have the ability to contemplate cost of living adjustments, and then explain that process to them. Because I think from their perspective, I mean, I don't know about the rest of my colleagues, but we still get calls on retirement, and I have to explain to each individual one, I can't actually give you a COLA.
Right.
The board has to give you a COLA.
Correct. Yeah, and so there are a couple of mechanisms that we can, I guess, institute. We do, again, communicate via the direct deposit statement. We've, on our website, we've actually put some notices, short of phone call.
Well, I think since you have all of your retirees, obviously, mailing addresses, it might be worth actually sending them a letter with an explanation. Because I don't think that most of our retirees, I mean, some are very savvy, but many are not. They're not going to independently go to the internet for research. Mm-hmm. Many of them are calling me from a landline to ask me to explain to them how COLAs, why they aren't getting a COLA. So I think,
fair enough, yes.
At this point, I guess what I'm asking for is you to be proactive, send a letter to them saying, here's how the law changed, here's how it affects you in your retirement, and here's our process for considering COLAs, so that they know that A, we are paying attention, and we know that with inflation and other issues, you guys are looking at that, obviously.
Absolutely.
And B, that you can finally explain to them we can't give them COLAs. Because I think I'm happy to support you guys in whatever you do with retirement, and that's appropriate what the council should do.
Right.
But there's an ongoing miscommunication that we can build the COLA into the budget. That's not really, I mean, in extreme circumstances, that's something we consider, but in the regular course and scope, COLAs go through you guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Morel. I have a note here that says employee retirement has a significant increase in operating from $59,000 last year to $1.05 million this year. Do we know what that increase is for?
So again, we'll go back to the COLA discussion. We've given a $500 per member COLA the last 2 years. What we're doing this year is we want to give them, again, a minimum of $500 one-time COLA in 2025. What we're building into the budget for 2025 is that we, by the authority of this council, added an additional to the contribution rate where we'll collect it in 2025 and then pay it in 2026. So it'll become self-funding in 2025 to pay in 2026. But this particular additional will be for the, I guess, bridge to get us to 2026.
Okay, so it's roughly $1 million to make that happen.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
We'll move on to the 2025 goals.
Bureau of Revenue 2025 department goals include our ongoing efforts to realign and reallocate our resources to improve our efficiency that's carried over from 2024 because of the new system. Secondly, continuous business process improvements to maximize our tax collections utilizing our new revenue system functionality. As more of the functionality becomes available, we will continue to improve our processes. Thirdly, to educate our taxpayers on the expanded services offered with the new revenue system, such as expanded tax types and payment options online, using our chatbot, Marty, that answers common questions and viewing the status of a refund request. Fourthly and finally, for our 2025 department goals, coordinating with One Stop Permitting Office to ensure a seamless customer service experience for all of our new business registrants.
Councilmember Thomas.
We get calls about a lot of things, but the One Stop, too often people describe it as stop. So when you say coordinating with permitting and One Stop, what do we need to do better there, or what is missing, or what have you guys found in terms of preparing for this year's budget? Because when you talk to folk out in the community, whether it's permitting or the whole concept of One Stop, they believe it's stop.
Okay. So for the council's education, One Stop actually handles occupational licenses on behalf of finance. So what we've offered was to, once everything the application process goes through approval, we can handle the handoff, meaning once a taxpayer does obtain the approvals, because they do have to go through the zoning requirements and approvals. Once that's done, they can come directly to revenue because it then lives with revenue at that point forward and on to renewal. So honestly, at this point, whatever they need for us to help, whether that be triaging an application, meaning explaining to a customer, what the process actually is, we're going to be there to team with them to help them.
If a person does everything right and they have everything in order, how long, especially based on standard industry or what happens around it, how long should one stop take? Or what is your goal in terms of one stop? What should the goal be?
Well,
how long?
For us, we want to make sure that the business actually initiates and get on to doing whatever business that they've elected to do. Certainly, we partner with them because they collect taxes on behalf of the city. That is the ongoing partnership. I cannot speak to it historically. When revenue handled the entire application process, it was anywhere between 30 to 45 days, depending on if it was zoned properly, because there could be ramifications if it's not zoned and needs to be changed, having to go through the city planning process, that would add additional time. But certainly times were different. We had, I'm sure we had a lot more resources as it relates to inspectors and things like that. So I can't really speak to what the time limit is now for One Stop. Historically, we would take the application, finance would take the application, hand it off to safety and permits. And once we receive the health and zoning approvals, we would take it from there.
So we're going to be more efficient and better with this year's budget than One Stop in the past.
We're going to help whatever Ms. Jackson needs. We're going to be there to help her.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Next slide.
So for 2025 department goals for Treasury, our biggest goal is the continuous effort in the expansion of the citywide iNova cash sharing system. This would allow the city to streamline the cash inflows that are coming in, better recognize recognize the revenue quicker. So we are continuing to implement that within numerous departments. We also intend to continue in providing informative resources and workshops for taxpayers. Again, as mentioned, we have pamphlets. We're in the middle of doing videos as well, especially as we approach our 2025 property tax season. So that's something that we would like to continue to do in efforts with other agencies such as the Assessor's Office. We also have a 2025 goal to reinstitute the sanitation, the litter abatement collection unit. It will be returning from Sewage and Water Board. Currently, Sewage and Water Board collects the sanitation fees on behalf of the city, as well as the litter abatement fees. So those are basically customers who are not eligible for sanitation, meaning businesses, units of 5 or more. So Treasury will be taking on those tasks from Sewage and Water Board. Any questions?
$2025 department goals for accounting to complete our fiscal year 2024 audit on time by June 30th, 2025. Our ongoing dedication of 100% of general fund invoices to be paid within 30 days. To complete the implementation of the LLA audit on the timeliness of vendor payments in conjunction with PDU and procurement, the 8 recommendations from LLA that we responded to. And then we are completing our ADP EV6 upgrade in January of 2025. Any questions?
Nope.
Regarding our 2025 goals, our goal is to continue to educate vendors on how to do business with the city, in particular, how to respond to opportunities and how to submit an invoice in brass, as well as continuing to educate our internal stakeholders on the procurement process by way of a procurement manual and a procurement training. Our second goal is we would like to establish a policy and procedure to improve the evaluation and tracking of vendor performance. We would like to require that there be a performance evaluation submitted when the departments make a request to amend a contract. And our third goal is we would like to use data derived from BRAS to improve efficiency and decision-making. Any questions?
Yeah, just on the last one, I know we talked about this. It says roll out standard procedure manual throughout all internal departments. Beginning of the year, I mean, again, we want this to work for y'all and for us. So that's, earlier is always better.
Yes, it will be first quarter. We are actually working in conjunction, accounting and procurement. So our standard operating procedures manual will be completed by the end of the year. So we'll be rolling that out in the first quarter of 2025 to all departments.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
2025 department goals for retirement. One of our biggest hurdles, or I guess our biggest goals, I should say, is going to be to complete a 5-year actuarial plan study. And what that is the plan looks at its prior 5 years and bases a stress test of the assumptions that the plan has. It looks at mortality, it looks at service, it looks at compensation, it looks at members, beneficiaries. It does an investigation into the investments to see if the actual investments are performing in such a way that it will support the liabilities of the plan. So that's a 5-year look back. It's a big study that we engage an actuary to do. If we need to make adjustments for our assumptions, we do so based upon that particular study. Again, as I mentioned earlier, goal is to attain the Certificate of Excellence for Public Pension Plan Reporting and Transparency, as so granted by NCPRS. Again, that will always be a goal of ours to do that. And then, in keeping with the theme of education, we want to improve education with our members via our website. We want to actually add some additional FAQs, which include videos as well. This will be in addition to the 4 retirement system classes that are taught by a member of my staff each year via civil service. So again, more education for members as well about their benefits and for the beneficiaries as well.
Thank you. All right, as we get to personnel, I have one question. There's a new line item for personnel using the interim short-term rental fund, but there are no FTEs attached to it, so we just wanted to see how that was going to be used. And maybe that's a in the weeds after the meeting answer, but we just want to make sure we understand, because we tell the public all the time how important it is, enforcement is, and we just want to make sure that there is proper enforcement on the finance side too.
So there was personnel dedicated to short-term rentals.
Right.
We did have a tax collection specialist as well as an auditor assigned for short-term rentals.
Right.
So I would imagine that would be how
Great.
that is funded.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember King.
To go back to the procurement department goals, the first slide or the first goal is to continue to educate vendors. What are some of the things that's being done to educate vendors? How can we help? One call I get, or just out and about, especially in the French quarters, we want to do things the correct way, just don't know how. And then they kind of get dinged for not doing things the right way. So what are some of the things that's being done, and how can we all help you to educate our vendors on how to legally operate the city?
We basically participate in those ZBE boot camps as well as some other outreach activities with the vendors. The goal is always to assist those vendors with registration, because that's one hurdle they have to overcome, is to actually get registered in BRAS. Then it's their need to find those opportunities. So helping folks to figure out how to find the opportunities in BRAS and then how to respond to those opportunities.
So are these aren't just like street vendors, or these are more maybe contractors talking about?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Is your question for street vendors?
I was asking more about the street vendors, the people like that, not so much of the larger contractors.
We do have published on the website guides to doing business with the city and specific types of businesses. We have food truck, we have flyers for the food truck that actually explains how and what the requirements are. So, and then the basics of sales tax, right? What the expectations are. So on the website, we do now, through economic development, we do partner with the economic development team when they have their road shows, and we will come in to explain to vendors who are in attendance exactly what the city's expectations are.
Okay. Well, I would like to help or get that message out, especially again, in the Bywater,
Sure.
Marigny, well, maybe Marigny Triangle, French Quarter area, we have a lot of people wanting to do things the correct way, but just don't have the knowledge. We don't want to just punish them, but actually help them go on the right path.
Well, they can also use economic development, the department, as a resource, because Jeff Schwartz and his team has the information, and they will have them to come to Revenue, and we will certainly answer the questions that they have.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good.
Excuse me, Councilman King, we also in the Bureau of Revenue, we have an upcoming session with the Office of Economic Development, a business session for those who are interested in doing business that will include that information. I'm sorry I don't have the exact date in front of me, but I can get that to you. But we
Please
do
do.
have an upcoming business session with the
And
Office
that
of
includes the
Economic
street vendors?
Yes.
All
Yes, because
contractors?
all vendors.
All vendors,
Yes.
okay. Please, I'll put out a newsletter, let our residents know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on to personnel.
Okay, the net effect for the 2025 budget is an increase of 2 positions. We have lost a couple positions in the clerical series and both the professional series, but we do have an increase in the analyst position, the development analyst 2 positions, which results in the net effect of an increase of 2 positions for 2025. The request to include the organizational chart is here. That explains the structure of the finance department. Any questions? And it's broken down by bureau.
Yeah, members, well, I think because in the past, this has been so well known to departments, but unknown maybe even us about, there's 120 employees in finance, but where they all fall didn't make sense to us. So this is just helpful, I think, for us and the public to know, oh, well, this is where everybody falls into their job. So that's you're going to see a little bit more of org charts in these presentations, so that way I think all of us know what's going on. Councilmember Green.
Can you talk publicly about vacancies that you have?
We do. Well, what we've tried to address, certainly, the city is always hiring, as you mentioned, quite often. We are working certainly with civil service. We have seen that many of our employees have gone on for more lucrative employment. The study requirement to look at salaries, I think, would be helpful because we need to stay on pace with competitors, other employers, because of the cost of living in the city. What we've seen is we've lost several auditors, which are revenue-generating positions, but we've also lost clerical staff that are support staff that helps us on the customer service side. So we're in the business of hiring, certainly on the professional side, the auditors, the accountants, the analysts, but we also need support staff as well.
I want to encourage you, as we continue to move forward in that direction, and we have hired people to do even more to work with those universities.
Yes.
Because those young people, some of them will stay. They're majoring in accounting, they're majoring in different areas. And, I always say in my district, but it's in our city, but even in my district, we have 4 universities. A lot of graduates coming out in April and May, so maybe we can reach out to them with some job fairs at the university that I would help with.
Yes, we do work with the recruiter who visits often the universities, and they engage the recently graduated students to apply, encourage them to apply. As Mr. Evans mentioned, it is, a retirement is a benefit to us, and it could benefit the students coming in. So we are out there, kind of canvassing and recruiting as vigorously as we can.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. All right. Before we get to, you got one more slide left on budget summary. I have one comment before we get to supplier diversity. So I know you have your final fund slide.
Okay, for the 2024 projected actuals versus the 2025, proposed budget, there's a variance of $798,000 in personal services, other operating, 7.9 million in debt service, 5 million with a total of $13 million. The explanation for personal services, the 2.5% employee raise along with the merit pay, and the budgeting for actuals contribute to the variance. On the other operating side, the upper limit payments to EMS is not budgeted any longer. The payment is still made, but we do not have to include that. The Department of the 2025 other operating reduction that was required across the board for departments, and we did receive ARPA funding, the one-time funding of $1.1 million.
As well as the repayment of the COI for the debt service. That was the $5 million.
That was going to be my question. Are we now fully paid on the COI? We owe nothing
Yes, we
left?
paid that off.
Great, perfect. Okay. All right, Mr. Burnside, you have 2 minutes.
Real quick, I just have one quick
Oh,
question.
yeah, absolutely.
One quick
Councilwoman
question.
Burns.
How many employees are there now at OSD, Office of Supplier Diversity? You know?
Oh, that's in the next presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. I saw the organizational chart and.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Burnside, and then we'll get to supplier diversity and Councilmember Moreno's question.
So, my brain doesn't work as well as it used to, but I read what I think is called the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report that the city sends to the state. And the audit findings in there focused on an issue of concern on the firefighters' pension fund. So I'm thinking that perhaps at some point in the future, a small little presentation to the public on the firefighters' pension fund and its multiple hundreds of millions of dollars in unfunded liabilities would be beneficial to everybody to understand that. The next thing is that the fire department has a really high FTE cost because it hides the pension problem. So it would be nice if the personal services, particularly for the fire department, were able to be broken into basically current costs versus past costs, because the past costs includes, of course, not just the pension, but also workers' compensation and the Louisiana state law of presumptive cancer. Also, might be nice to know why we're paying any kind of fees on debt service when we have, as I understand it, a fair amount of cash in the bank and we actually get interest from that. So in a different part of the budget, we're receiving interest in the multiple millions of dollars, and in other parts of the budget, we're giving away millions of dollars in debt service. So I'm not sure why we're collecting and giving interest when we really should only be collecting it. And the last thing is, you mentioned the importance of COLAs to the people who are getting employed and living in the city. And I think that while many of our retirees may not live in the city, the idea that COLAs are one time is a little bit irritating, because where I come from, COLAs are like permanent. If you get a COLA, it's the idea that it's covering for inflation, and inflation doesn't disappear after a year. The costs of food,
Thank you, Mr. Burnside. All right, we'll get to supplier diversity next. Thank you very much to Finance for being here. We appreciate your time this morning and all of your work. And just so the public knows, we also have no online comments today. So I will not be looking at Ms. Spears at any point. So we welcome supplier diversity up next. Thank you all. Thank you for the time this morning. get a cup of coffee? You want anything? Okay.
I'd like to introduce Ms. Shawn Charles, who took the helm of the Office of Supply Diversity in April of this year. She'll introduce her team.
Good morning. My team here is Ms. Rhonda Allen, our compliance manager, and Ms. LaSabre Ventress, our certification manager. So before we jump into the presentation, I think it's important to note that upon my arrival, I was not aware of the goals that had been set last year. So I came in, made an assessment, and I set my own goals. So I do apologize if what you see today looks a little differently than what you saw last year this time. But we'll go ahead and get started. So the 2024 goals that we set upon my arrival was to, and I have to add that some goals, once I learned about last year's goals, I was able to incorporate a few of them into our plan for this year. And so the first one is fully implementing the Mentor Protege program. So as of October 2024, the Mentor Protege program is fully implemented, and we are happy to announce that our inaugural cohort is underway. The first cohort consists of 2 mentors and 10 proteges. This quarter, we will host a Meet the Mentor Protege event to connect participants with city departments that may be interested in services offered by these firms. The enthusiasm from both mentor and protege firms is promising, and we are confident that this program will create valuable opportunities for growth and development within our community. The next goal was to fully implement the Set-Aside program. So in collaboration with the Bureau of Procurement, the Office of Supply Diversity has fully implemented the Set-Aside program. This week, I sent a request to the CAO, which I'm sure he's reviewing right now, seeking his support in calling an essential citywide training session on the City of New Orleans' Economic Business Opportunities Program and its state and local disadvantaged business enterprise practices. Now, the training session will be coordinated by the Office of Supply Diversity and the Bureau of Procurement, and it will cover the importance of the 35% DBE goal, the city set-aside program, including parameters and objectives, an introduction to the city's scorecard system and how departmental performance is assessed, among other essential EBO and DBE information. The set-aside program will go live once department heads attend the citywide training scheduled for Wednesday, October 16th, unless, of course, otherwise decided by leadership. The next goal was to return to in-person site visits. When I arrived, I learned that prior to COVID, the OSD team completed site visits in person, but had not been able to resume that function due to the loss of the use of their city vehicle. With the assistance and support from the finance leadership team, we were able to get a loaner vehicle from EMD, and I am happy to report that our team is on the move. The Office of Supply Diversity has returned to in-person site visits. The face-to-face interactions are creating more personal connections, which help us to foster stronger relationships and increase DBE participation in the program. The next goal was to improve contract compliance. So upon my arrival here in April, during my initial assessment, I discovered that there were more than 2,900 compliance audits that were over 90 days past due. I met with the team and immediately implemented a plan of action to bring the compliance audits current. The team was able to get the audits down significantly in about 6 weeks. Moving forward, we have established a process to ensure that audits are no longer outstanding. We have revamped our approach to contract compliance audits to ensure that all audits are completed promptly. Okay, the next goal I set was to publish a quarterly newsletter. I'm happy to report that thanks to the hard work of our compliance manager, Ms. Rhonda Allen, and our certification manager, Ms. LaSabre Ventress, the Office of Supply Diversity now has a quarterly newsletter. By now, you all should have received a copy, but if not, here's a sneak peek at some of the topics we cover. Upcoming events, supply diversity news, SLDBE certification, opportunities for DBE to expand their business, and a section that I am particularly proud of, Spotlight on a DBE. I'll double check to make certain that everybody did get a copy emailed. The DBE waiver tracking. So the City of New Orleans mandates 35% DBE participation on all city contracts. However, when we cannot identify a certified DBE to fulfill a specific service, we are forced to waive that goal. Now, OSD has previously tracked waivers, but primarily for documentation purposes. Under my leadership, we have begun to track waivers with a more strategic approach. For example, NOPD receives waivers for the disposal and cleaning of the firing range. Now, I believe that one of our janitorial DBEs could obtain a certification to manage cleaning and disposal of firing range debris as well, which would help us avoid waiving this service in the future. And I'm sure there are other opportunities like this as well. So now, OSD publishes the list of DBE waivers on our website and in our quarterly newsletter, and we encourage all certified DBEs to consider expanding their business offerings to meet the needs of city departments. By exploring these sectors where certified DBEs are currently lacking, DBEs can play a vital role in increasing participation and ensuring that our community thrives.
Can I stop you right there, right over here? I want to thank you for that. We talk a lot about the wealth gap in this city, widening how black families are becoming, not making as much compared to 20, 30 years ago, kind of making the same amount of money. And this right here is a good step into ensuring that we all get a piece of that pie. So I really want to thank you for recognizing that was something that's needed, because it is needed throughout the entire city for our DBEs. So I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Thomas.
First of all, in line with Councilmember King, the data center, I think this year gave us information in terms of the wealth gap, the widening racial gap, the gap in income. We talk about gender, different cultures, and they really highlighted how over the last several years, decades, the African American community, even with a few of us doing better, have actually done worse when you compare us to the per capita income based on Kimbrough and some of the studies they've done, even over 150 years. So my question is, the Herfindahl-Hirschman Index does a study, they compare each year to the year before to determine how well you're doing with diversity. Are we using any of those types of studies to say, okay, last year we did this percentage in these sectors, and it also compares it across different agencies where different opportunities may be to determine if you need to highlight a certain area or build capacity in another area? What kind of studies, whether it's Herfindahl-Hirschman, or what kinds of studies are we using to compare the year before based on the data we've already collected?
Well, Councilmember Thomas, that is absolutely our goal, and based on the efforts that I'm sharing with you all today, that is the direction we're moving.
Okay. And the reason why I'm following up on Councilmember King is because everybody talks about building capacity and empowering the black community economically, even some of the false things about black women leading in startup, but no one says 6 months later they don't get the resources to stay up. So we highlight these trends versus the realities of where resources go, and especially when they don't go to our community. Hispanics have actually surpassed African Americans in New Orleans in per capita income post-Katrina. So 3 of the different techniques that are used around the country are targeting market failure. In what areas of diversity are we failing where we can have the biggest gains? I would hope you guys would take a look at that. And then the other part of it, if you look at Herfindahl-Hirschman or some of these studies, is taking risk. If you, Councilmember King, if you want to empower a community, the national studies employ that you actually have to take risk in certain areas to help build capacity. And then the last thing is Dr. Torrin Sanders and Dr. Penny at SUNO have long talked about a poverty reduction strategy attached to diversity so you can see its impact on the whole. So it sounds like you're going to be looking at all of those different factors, because we're going to hear politicians and everybody preach about we want black folk to make more money, but in the last 6 years we've made less money. So at what point do we actually begin to use the data to impact it? So the data that Councilmember King's talking about with the data center is actually heading in the right direction.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Thomas. We will absolutely be comparing our work to those things you referenced, because we all know that data just drives decisions. And so we absolutely have to share that data so you all can make better decisions.
Because next year we're going to be back here and folks say, we want to help black women and black families and black business and make more money. And then the next year we're going to say, we want to help, and then the data center is going to issue a report to say, guess what? They didn't make any more money. Thank you.
Thank you. Look up, outreach. No. Outreach. There we go. Okay. All right. So DBE outreach. Prior to my arrival, it seemed that the majority of the outreach the OST team did was mainly based on invitations from other agencies. Under my leadership, we are proactively offering outreach to our community, and we are leveraging technology to do so. We recently hosted a Mentor Protege webinar on September 24th, and we plan on hosting our What is a DBE webinar presentation on October 22nd. DBE capacity building. So in addition to our partnership with the Propeller, we've collaborated with other local technical assistance providers to enhance our capacity building efforts. This quarter, we're excited to host the following events. There will be a DBE boot camp. November 12th, we'll be doing a DBE panel presentation. And December 12th, we'll be hosting or co-hosting the CertiFest with our partners at the Propeller. Professional development. So I've taken the initiative to increase the professional development of our team to ensure that we have the necessary certification and compliance core competencies. I've made it a requirement for all OSD members to obtain their contract compliance administrator certification and participate in one professional development training per month. That could be a civil service training, B2G Now, Microsoft Office, etc. But those things are required. Fully utilize B2G Now for enhanced operational efficiencies and reporting. After a closer look into the OSD procedures, I discovered that we were not fully leveraging the capabilities of B2G Now. I've since worked with the OSD management team to update electronic communications and implement system enhancements to ensure that we maximize the full potential of B2G Now moving forward. Modify the certification application process to require BRASS registration. So to ensure that certified DBEs have the opportunity to do business with the city, applicants must now complete their BRASS registration as a part of the SLDBE application process. This change will allow certified DBEs to be ready to do business with the city immediately after being certified. Improve data collection and communication of the DBE scorecard. So in partnership with the Office of Performance and Accountability, the Office of Supplier Diversity has enhanced the data collection process and will continue to focus on ongoing improvements in this area.
Can I jump in real quick, Mr. Chair? So, so you mentioned the B2G program, B2G Now, which is how in the past they were really taking a look at how to do the scorecards. Like that was the information. But it looks like you've kind of worked through that, and now the scorecards are going to be accurate, because in the past they weren't. Departments were getting A's or F's and not necessarily deserving A's or F's. It's just that that was just the readily available information that they were able to get through B2G Now. But you think you've worked through that now? Is that what you're saying?
So it's a work in progress. Certainly we have partnered with the finance team and accounting to get the most accurate information possible, right? So we're doing some things different moving forward. Of course, we'd already started preparation on the scorecard, and so we got that one out by October 1st. But moving forward, we plan to have additional meetings on how we can improve the report of the scorecard and the data that goes along with it.
Got it. And I think that the scorecards, they're online in the Performance and Accountability website. Can we put them on yours too? On the OSD website?
They're there, yeah. And
they're on the OSD website?
I believe they are accessible through our website, but I talk a little bit more about what we plan to do with the scorecard in this.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Right. So for our 2025 department goals, the Office of Supplier Diversity is dedicated to creating and implementing programs, policies, and procedures that assist underserved, underutilized, and disadvantaged businesses with gaining greater access to procurement opportunities and resources to build competitively viable and sustainable businesses in and for the City of New Orleans. As such, we plan to accomplish our 2025 goals by employing a number of approaches. So continual process improvement. As I said earlier, we've already begun the process of improving our compliance audits, but our goal for 2025 is to further improve compliance by consistently completing timely audits and enforcing contract compliance. We also want to revise the DBE sections of the city's contract, RFQ, and RFP templates to improve compliance management. So I propose modifying the DBE section of these procurement documents to ensure alignment with the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise compliance regulations in efforts to improve compliance management throughout the contracting process. Currently, the city's contract is not fully aligned with all of the DBE requirements and may lead to misunderstandings and a lack of awareness among prime contractors as they enter into agreements with the city. In addition, there are no implications for DBE noncompliance in either of the aforementioned documents. By providing a thorough explanation of DBE compliance requirements directly within the contract at the onset, we can eliminate ambiguity and set clear expectations. This proactive approach will not only facilitate better compliance management, but also foster stronger partnerships with prime contractors and DBEs, ultimately supporting the city's commitment to the 35% DBE goal. Now, we've already begun the conversation with legal, so we should be able to make the modifications relatively quickly and with ease. The next one is increase SLDBE certification application submissions by 10%. So for the current year, the Office of Supply Diversity Certification Team has processed 243 SLDBE certification applications to date, and we're on track to process an additional 50 to 80 applications by year end. To continue building capacity, we aim to increase the SLDB application submissions and processing by 10% in fiscal year 2025. OSD will work with our partners at the Propeller to host a quarterly CertiFest. This is an event that the Propeller hosts annually to help potential DBEs with their SLDBE applications. Now, when I heard about this, I quickly asked if OSD could partner. This past August, the Office of Supply Diversity participated in our first CertiFest, and it was a great success. Now, why is an event like this important? During my initial assessment, DBE applications were only being submitted at about 25% correct the first time. So what I ascertained is that the applicants are frustrated, quite possibly confused in the process, right? And this leads to longer processing times and incomplete applications. They start applications, never go back to finish them, and they're just frustrated. So at the August CertiFest, there were only about 10 applicants in attendance, but the energy was amazing. Our certification manager, Ms. LaSabre Ventris, prepared a presentation where she discussed the application process in detail. She went over the required forms and how to complete them step by step. Team members were on site and interacting with the applicants in person, answering questions directly, providing assistance, and ultimately putting them at ease about any reservations. Our compliance manager, Ms. Rhonda Allen, and I were on site to support the event as well. Co-hosting the CertiFest is an excellent opportunity for us to engage our SLDBE applicants and guide them through the process. They get to meet our team in person, they can put a name with a face, they get our contact information, and they get reassurance that they can reach out to us at any time if they have questions or if they get stuck along the way. Now, I'll share this one example. Hopefully you all will appreciate it. So at the November event, I encountered a lady who was, she was locked out of B2G Now, and she was frustrated. Took her in the lobby, we called B2G Now, she sat down. It took us about maybe 15 minutes. They unlocked her password. She was able to go in, participate in the training. She ultimately completed and submitted her application. She was approved. She is now a certified DBE, and she has also signed up to our Mentor Protege program, so she'll be in the first cohort of the Mentor Protege program. Just share that with you all to let you know that these things do work if you apply the correct approach. I think this is the last one. Okay, the next one is documenting our standard operating procedures for the Office of Supply Diversity. So documenting SOPs in the Office of Supply Diversity is crucial for ensuring consistency, transparency, and efficiency in operations. Clear SOPs provide a framework for staff, facilitate training and onboarding, and promote compliance. By standardizing processes, we can ensure accountability, improve communication, and ultimately strengthen our team. Continue improving data collections and communication of the DBE scorecard. So in partnership with the Office of Performance and Accountability, the Office of Supply Diversity will continue enhancing data collections and communication processes for the DBE scorecard. In addition to continual improvement, we will provide department heads with quarterly updates of their respective scorecard dashboards. Regular updates will allow department heads to identify and address potential issues, ensuring that they can take corrective actions to meet the DBE goal. Quarterly updates will promote a culture of accountability and reinforce the importance of the DBE goal. By tracking progress quarterly, departments can adjust their strategies based on real-time data, ensuring that they stay on track to meet the 35% goal by year end. And lastly, increase the OSD team to include 2 additional positions that are critical to the success of our operation. So at the recommendation of our consultant, we would like to request 2 additional crucial staff positions, a capacity building coordinator and a quality assurance specialist. These positions will be instrumental in ensuring the program's integrity and success. Ultimately, the requested positions will help to strengthen the Equitable Business Opportunities Program. The quality assurance specialist will oversee the performance of office staff, ensuring that all activities meet internal standards and regulatory requirements. This role is pivotal in maintaining the integrity of our operation and fostering continuous improvement within the department. The capacity building coordinator will play a pivotal role in enhancing the capabilities of the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program within the community. This individual will be responsible for forging strong relationships with local organizations, initiating contact with newly certified DBEs, and facilitating mentorship connections across various DBE vendors. A significant aspect of this role involves proactive community outreach to vendors, ensuring they are informed and engaged with the opportunities available through the Office of Supplier Diversity.
Councilmember Moreno, you have a question? Yeah.
First, I would just like to say that this is one of the more thorough presentations that we've received, and I know you have one more slide left to go, but that we've received on Office of Supplier Diversity. So I really appreciate, your kind of outside the box thinking on trying to find solutions to the longstanding issues that we've had as we've tried to boost DBE participation for the city of New Orleans. One of the questions that I have is kind of on numbers. Do you know the number of DBE prime contracts that we have in the city right now?
I don't have that answer off the top of my head, but we can certainly look into it and get back.
Yeah, that would be great. The reason why I bring that up is there's been kind of an upward trajectory over the past couple of years. In 2021 to 22, we had 45 DBE prime contracts. In 22 to 23, we had 99. I want to make sure that that number is continuing to go up so that we can track what that looks like. And then when it comes to on the subcontractor DBE contracts, in 2021 to 2022, there were 392. The following year, 22 to 23, there were 423. So just wondering to see what the subcontractor DBE numbers look like as well. Once again, just making sure that they're going up and not going in the opposite direction. I think you brought up a really interesting stat, and I'm glad that you flagged that and are doing something about it, that 25%, I think you mentioned, of the applications submitted, only 25% are correct. And so you're absolutely spot on the outreach piece. Whatever we can do to make sure that the application process, whether it's simplified or whether there's additional assistance, I think you're on the right track. And finally, I just want to thank you for asking for more positions within the Office of Supplier Diversity. The reason why I say that is because I feel like this council, even into Councilmember Giarrusso and I's first term, we've been trying to push more folks onto or more employees into that office. And in the past, we've had a little bit of resistance, like, no, I think we're good. No, I think we're good. I think we can handle. And so I'm glad to actually hear you request for additional assistance and employees. We added a couple positions a couple years ago, maybe in our first term, Councilmember Giarrusso, maybe at the beginning of our second. All the years are running together now. But, I'm glad that you are adding additional positions, and we do want to figure out how we can make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just on the additional information on the contracts, please send that over to the council.
We will.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember Moreno. All right, and you have your personnel slide and your org chart.
So on the personnel slide, as you can see, the 2024 actual personnel was 7, and 2025 budget reflects, was 8, and the 2025 budget reflects that it'll be 7.
That is a vacancy?
That is a vacancy. Correct. That we are working on filling. So
correct.
Hopefully we can get it filled by the end of the year. You see our organizational chart on the screen, and I have the vacancies listed as well as the proposed positions.
And the proposed positions are baked into your personnel budget?
I'm sorry?
I said the proposed positions are baked into your personnel budget for this year?
It's an ask.
The problem,
Councilmember Moreno and Councilmember Green, did you hear that? I asked if the proposed positions were baked into the budget. They are not. So Amy, I know here, is taking copious notes on the things that we're asking for and want, and I will note in our internal note-taking that the council has taken note of the 2 requests for additional positions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Green, do you want to say something?
Well, yes, what I'm going to say is kind of a bit obvious. The administration should ask for those positions. And let us say no and put it on us. You say they're very important positions. We know how important the Office of Supplier Diversity is. Ask for them. This council has, I understand that I'm the one who said that we have chosen to not increase taxes, which is a very responsible decision that we made, but also there are ways that if priorities exist, that sometimes we might need to look at making cuts in other offices because we know how important this is. So, as Councilman Giarrusso has said, we're taking notes on it, but it wouldn't hurt if you had simply asked for 10 positions. That's all.
Thank you for that.
But thank you for your work. I also want to applaud where applause is due. Thank you for your enthusiasm over these months. Your office is appreciated and it's recognized, but you've been here since April. You've noticed important areas in which we need to work, and I just want to commend you as you make this first budget presentation less than 6 months later, that you are looking into the areas that are so very important, and we'll certainly look at the quality assurance specialist and the capacity builder coordinator. Yeah,
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, the budget summary 2024 versus the 2025 proposed budget. You'll see in personal services a variance, of $109,000, other operating $99,000, and a overall total of $209,000. The explanation of those variances could be attributed to the 2.5% employee raises as well as the budgeting for actuals, and the annual lease payment transferred on the other operating side to property management. That is no longer budgeted for OSD.
Can I just have a clarification?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a quick clarification question. I'm looking at the organizational chart for OSD and then looking at the personnel. And so the organizational chart has, office manager, compliance manager, quality assurance specialist, but then on the FTEs, I'm seeing 7 urban policy specialists and 1 economic development specialist. So I'm just trying to figure out how those break down among the organizational chart.
Is that working titles versus
Yes.
civil service titles?
Yes. Civil service titles versus the working titles.
So the 7 urban policy specialists, those would be the compliant. I don't know why I'm presuming here. Which ones are the 7 urban policy specialists in the organizational chart?
I believe that's the compliance manager, certification manager, compliance officers, and certification analysts.
Okay, just counting here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That.
12, huh?
Yeah, well, I was only counting the ones on the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to need some additional clarification on who goes where as far as the FTEs, if that's okay, just so that I better understand it.
Sure, we can clarify that information and provide it for you.
Yeah, because there's also way more people on the organizational chart than an additional 2 more people requested. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, I have 1 comment card, Ernest Del Bente from the Collaborative. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, and it's pronounced Stolberg.
Oh, sorry.
No problem at all. No problem at all.
My name is Ernest Stallbert. I'm a member of the Collaborative, and I thank you for giving us some time on your schedule today. We have been very, very pleased to work with Ms. Charles on the direction. We're pleased with the direction that the Office of Supply Diversity is going in. We agree with a lot of the stated goals and kind of where they're going. However, there are some things we absolutely do not agree with and dispute. The scorecard is a mess. We told you that last year. The Chief Administrative Office last year openly admitted that it was not based upon all spending, over $1.7 billion in spending. That same situation applies today. It is not based upon all spending. It's based upon contracts monitored by OSD. So you're not really getting a true DB percentage number. It is not the fault of supply diversity. We have a disjointed system here of collecting data, and we have to get it fixed. But going from year to year, saying we're meeting our DB goals, giving these departments A's and B's is absolutely not correct. Truth matters, especially when you're spending our money in our community. Truth matters. That is not a true picture of the DB spending. You need to know that as councilmen. When you approve these budgets for these departments, you need to understand these numbers are not based upon the total spending. In addition to that, in the scorecard report that was issued by the Chief Administrative Office just this year, through a curve, it says on item number 2, ongoing commitments, DB commitment dollars as a percentage of the total contract dollars awarded prior to current reporting periods 2015 and 2022. What they're doing is including DB spending for years outside of 2022 and 23. You're reporting for this period, but you're using dollars for a prior period. The math doesn't work. So you're seeing more payments, and the percentages don't really match up with what it would do if you use the same period. We have an issue.
Sir, that's your time. That's your time. Thank you. Well, look, sir, we technically don't need to take public comment today, and we're doing it as a matter of respect to the public as well. And I see Mr. Burnside there, who knows that we do a strong job of trying to influence 2 minutes, so we're doing that. Thank you very much.
I think to Mr. Stallbert's comments, we have taken a look at the methodology that was used for the scorecard to make sure that it's actually truth in reporting, to capture all payments. We certainly want to make sure that we include every city dollar spent, that it is included in the consideration of the scorecard calculation. So all contracts across departments, citywide, we want to make sure that we represent the data as accurately as possible. So to Ms. Charles's point earlier, we have, and Ms. Richardson Taylor have worked closely with the CAO's office to make sure that the methodology captures all the information that needs to be reported.
Yeah. Okay. Councilmember Green?
We're talking 35% of the contract dollars that the city spends, not the city's overall budget, because our city's budget includes a more significant amount of personnel than it does actually contracting. So we can't look at 1.7 billion because we don't have 1.7 billion in contracts. It's a 35% goal of the contracting that the city does with vendors, not of the money that the city spends on police, fire, and other department heads. And I think that maybe there should be a discussion because it's suggested in Mr. Stallbert's comments that we should be looking at an overall number. And I know there's no $1.7 billion number to look at in terms of contracting. And that's what I want to emphasize, contracting. But maybe you could have a discussion with Mr. Stallbert so that we are on the same page. But our goal as a city is 35% DBE participation in all contracted amounts spent.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all for your time this morning. We appreciate the presentation. Thank you. All right. Next up is the CAO's office. We'll start with the Budget Office, then Office of Service and Innovation, and Office of Employee and Labor Relations. Thank you. Pretty good. All right, good morning, CEO's office.
Good morning. I'm going to turn it over to the team. Brandy DeLarge will start us off with our budget office, and I will try to direct.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead.
So what I'll start with, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Start with our 2024 goals. So we, the charter mandate changed for the budget submission date for October the 1st. So one of the first things we needed to tackle for this year was to update internal and then our public timeline to ensure that we successfully had the budget submitted on the 1st. So that was done. At the end of this season, we are going to look at any adjustments that may need to be made for the timeline internally and for our public piece as well. This year, we did start year-round budget trainings. We changed the term to workshops instead of training so that people can come multiple times to get assistance. So this year, what we did was we had 4 different sessions. One was on navigating the budget in brass. The other was specific to departments that had grants. We also had navigating with Questica and then ordinances as well. So we have surveys that will be going out at the end of this year to attendees of all those workshops to determine if there are other items or requests that they would have or any input for those sessions to ensure we can continue successfully in 2025. Something that will always be a goal, and we always want to improve it each year because customer service is one of our the pillars of our area, is we want to continue working with the city agencies to monitor expenditures. We do that monthly, and then we proactively will communicate and continue communicating with city agencies during this process. This year, we transitioned to a new budget book software developer, so that's OpenBook, and that'll be utilized for some years to come. It is intended to be interactive for our citizens to view online. It offers several benefits over our previous software, aside from making it easier to make sure our data numbers are correct because it connects directly to our budget portal, Questica. We are able to include different hyperlinks within, and if there are updates that need to be made, they can be made with no interruption on the viewer's end, so some benefits there. Any questions on goal progress? So for 2025, we're going to continue the workshops following their success in our first year, but again, to build on as requests and needs are communicated to us by departments. Due to some of the updates this year, we're going to make sure we have updates for this proposed budget for next year. We want to continue and have a closer collaboration with our city agencies and include more frequent communication regarding the adjustments for the 2025 budget. For the budget book, we are learning more ways to make it more interactive for the citizens. So we're looking for more features to add and that citizens can use it not just once a year during budget time, but to come back to the adopted book and use it as information as well. On our internal audit team, we would like to make sure the implementation of their software is fully completed by 2025. We have the procurement piece done and we have some meetings getting set up there, but the implementation of that takes a little bit of time. Our internal audit team is also looking to complete at least one comprehensive internal audit of a city agency for next year. Currently, they have one active investigation, one investigation that is in discovery planning mode, 2 in queue, and they have 3 that they're looking at based upon the current investigation that they'll look at for next year. And finally, our office is working to update the city's indirect cost rate. And so this rate, for those who may not know what it is the rate that we assess for outside funding that may come in, mainly our grants, and it is part of the city's revenue. So making sure we have that update is key. So the personnel here is based upon the cost centers under our organization structure here. And so we have 10.2 for this year and 9.49 moving into next year, and that's just some shifts. We don't currently have any budgeted vacancies at this time. Our org chart is shown, set up here. So we, under the budget office, we have a assistant chief operations manager. We have 3 budget analysts at 2 different levels, classifications. Under internal audit, right now we have a supervisor and internal auditor. It has not been as easy to fill the vacant positions there, but we are looking, the team would need 2 additional people, but we are not moving forward with those exactly right now. Again, they're a little tougher to fill. On the management side, we have someone in our office who deals with budget, contracts, and administrative procedures. And I heard something mentioned about the college students, so that our other position for communications, that's actually a student at Xavier who was a part of the workforce development program, who is now in a different classification, and she graduates next year, so she'll be moving from her one position to the next position next year. For funding, the difference for personnel services is 2.5% that all city employees are receiving, and the addition of the internal audit staff. For the operating, the budget office actually had a reduction, but then funding was added for internal audit, so it's a $110,000 net increase for $260 overall.
All right, we were really exercised about that one, so we can move to the next item. Thank you, Brandy. Service and innovation.
Good morning. I'm Shelby Flynn. I'm the Director of Innovation. I will start out with the progress on our 2024 goals. In 2023, we stood up the graffiti abatement program that was fully implemented and transitioned to the Department of Code Enforcement in May of 2024 for ongoing management on our enterprise technology. The contract for asset management was executed in June. Project kicked off in July, and we are expecting phase 1 to be complete in April of next year. The document management system contract was executed a couple of weeks ago, and implementation will begin this month. On data and dashboards, the Office of Performance and Accountability has continued their work to develop and support various dashboards, including ongoing maintenance of the ARPA and General Fund fund balance websites that were deployed in 2023, and also maintaining dashboards for the Health Department, safety and permits, and code enforcement. We've also collaborated with various departments in complying with council mandates, including developing the Equitable Business Opportunities Scorecard in coordination with supplier diversity, and working with code enforcement on the demolition dashboard, as well as a number of other reports. Moving on to our 2025 goals, we're going to continue our work to support enterprise technology deployments, shifting our focus more to document management for the coming year. Our next goal is to develop and maintain data dashboards and internal management tools to foster transparency and promote data-informed decision-making. We'll also be allocating additional resources to really monitor and analyze budgets and spending for outside criminal justice agencies in close cooperation with our budget team. And finally, we'll leverage our expertise in project management and data analysis to drive high-priority initiatives in support of the CAO and other city departments. For our personnel, we currently have 9 FTEs, and we will be budgeted at that level in 2025. This is our org chart. We have 5 innovation managers, and then the Office of Performance and Accountability team, which consists of the Associate Director of OPA and 2 data analysts. We have minimal changes to our budget in 2025 compared to this year, slight decreases in our personnel and other operating to reflect historical actual expenditures. Any questions?
Are all of the positions filled? I'm sorry, you're taking it?
Yes, they're all filled.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Christina Hamilton, Assistant CAO of Human Resources for the City of New Orleans. I'm going to go ahead and go over our 2024 department goals. One of our 2024 goals was to continue to increase employee wellness and engagement and productivity. We are currently hosting health and wellness clinics at different departments throughout the City of New Orleans, and we hosted the annual Employee Health and Wellness Fair last Friday. Employees have received 439 cardiovascular screenings, 134 biometric screenings, 380 immunizations to date, which helps to reduce healthcare costs and to improve overall employee health. We also provide wellness resources to employees through the UHC Optum Employee Assistance Program. Another goal of ours was to continue to improve communication with employees regarding access to educational opportunities, benefits, and financial planning. We created an employee relations webpage to provide guidance on topics specifically related to employee relations matters. We also continue to partner with both the Rivette School, formerly known as Trellis, and Western Governors University to provide greater educational opportunities to city employees. As a partner, city employees are afforded easy access and enrollment to over 60 degree programs, online scheduling, financial aid, and an opportunity to apply for scholarships worth $2,500. Another goal for 2024 was to expand HR training and development opportunities. We continue to conduct monthly HR meetings in collaboration with civil service and other partnerships. During these meetings, we provide training to HR managers on various topics such as military leave, FMLA, wellness resources, and employee behavior. We've also provided resources to staff to obtain HR certifications. Team members have obtained certifications from both the Society of Human Resource Management and from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Another goal for 2024 was to continue to collaborate with stakeholders to increase retention and recruitment. The new CAO recruitment team has created new advertising and marketing graphics to enhance employer branding. They've enhanced engagement on social media platforms to increase outreach and awareness. They've established partnerships with directors of student services from various local universities, collaborated with outside agencies to help fill critical city vacancies, attended 72 recruiting events, established 2,710 new leads, screened 1,452 new candidates, and added 163 new applicants to the register, which has established 28 new hires to date in 2024 just from the recruitment team. Our 2025 department goals include to continue to increase employee wellness, engagement, and productivity by promoting health and wellness activities throughout the year through our OnePass select gym membership, health fairs, our wellness clinics, our on-site trainings, virtual trainings, and newsletters. We're also going to continue to improve communication with employees regarding access to educational opportunities, benefits, and financial planning by continuing to partner with the Rivette School, Western Governors University, and the Start Saving Program and other stakeholders. We're also going to continue to expand HR strategies and development opportunities by continuing to focus on professional development and streamlining HR processes. We're going to continue to collaborate with stakeholders to increase retention and recruitment by continuing to work with both internal and external stakeholders to expand recruitment and retention efforts by connecting with our local universities. Also, we're going to continue to increase employee recognition, support performance-based pay, referral pay, retention pay, flexible work arrangements, and to continue to improve recruiting events throughout the area and obtain access to technology to assist us with applicant tracking. You'll see on our personnel slide, there's an increase of 1 FTE. That is to fill a budgeted vacancy of our Assistant Chief Operations Manager position for our Employee Relations Division. You'll see our organizational chart, which is our Benefits Division, our Employee Relations Division, and our Personnel and Training Division. And then you'll see the organizational charts for each of those divisions. This is our Benefits Division organizational chart here. Then we have our Employee Relations Division organizational chart here. And then Personnel and Training is really big, so we did it on 2 different charts. This is one chart here, Personnel and Training. And then this is another chart here of Personnel and Training. You'll see for our budget, we do have a decrease of $1,893,233. The variance explanation for personal services is because of the 2.5% employee raises and reduction in funding for unfilled positions and wage reserves, including merit pay. Other operating budget adjustments were made to align with historical spending trends. Any questions?
I don't see any questions, but Mr. Burnside has a card. Mr. Burnside?
Hello, my name is Michael Burnside, 2215 Felicity. So I have a bad habit of talking to the wrong people about things that matter to me, and I get chewed out occasionally. But I thought I would take my minute and a half or whatever to mention 2 things about recruitment and retention. So in regards to recruitment and retention, the newspaper had a recent article about the NOPD and the various difficulties they are having getting people through their training. And so I was wondering if the CAO's office has any way of changing the training or changing the number of people that go in so that we get a few more coming out. The other thing I want to touch on is HVAC. It seems ridiculous, but the Central City Library is once again closed. And when I went to go have my wonderful opportunity to talk with Chief Nelson at the fire headquarters, they don't have air conditioning either, since they have a couple of window units and a bunch of fans in the hallways. So I don't know who to tell, but we need to employ HVAC employees by the city of New Orleans, and they need to have a white van, and they need to have some tools, and they need to go around and fix stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Burnside. All right, Councilmember Morale has a question.
Less of a question, more of a statement. Obviously, HR is very familiar with the meeting I'm having tomorrow regarding issues with DPW. I will be interested, based on that meeting, to see where we can see improvement, because that was a situation that spiraled very quickly out of control, mainly because I think HR was not involved from the get-go. And I think that many of our employees, particularly those in supervisory positions, need to understand where their supervision authority ends and when HR begins. Because if what we have tomorrow is typical of what's going on in departments, you guys are going to need more people. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I think that concludes the CAO's office, and we will move to agenda for children. Thank you all so much. Appreciate your time this morning. And as agenda for children gets settled, civil service will be the last topic for today. And maybe right before civil service gets settled, I'll just go through what the council has to do for the rest of the week. Thank you. Yeah, right there, wherever you need to. I think the presentation, can somebody help? We have all the presentations pulled up in a various order, and we'll just get it set for you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Spears.
There we go.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks again for having us.
Thank you.
It's our favorite day of the year. where we get to talk about everything that has happened over the last year. And so I want to start with just a reminder where we are in terms of the timeline. So you guys might recall you were integral into ensuring that we had that CEA in place before the election day, which was April 30th, 2022. We have now since expanded and we have entered our second year of expansion. And so July 1 last year was the first day of the formal start of the program year. And we have since started year 2 of the program year, which happened on August 1st. We have over 1,000 students enrolled in the program, and we are now operating with 41 centers.
41.
So you might recall this. This was essentially 2 out of every 3 voters said they wanted this. And so we're really pleased to be able to do that in partnership with so many other organizations in the city. So as you can see here, there's a lot that were here last year, but in addition to that, there's even more than there were last year, because this is a community effort and it's really intended to ensure that we are building the most comprehensive ecosystem for children and families in this community. So a couple of headlines we wanted to share with you. So as of today, you have over 2,000 children who are enrolled, infants and toddlers ages 0 to 3, in a comprehensive early care and education program provided either through funding provided by the city, through the millage, or funding provided by the state that matches those dollars. What is integral to and important about this is that we leveraged last year that one-to-one match, which was so critical to so many of you. But actually this year we did it again. And Councilmember Giarrusso, you asked a question last year, which was what would happen if the state cut funding?
Yes.
And as many of you probably know and saw in the legislature, there was a cut to education funding. And I am very pleased to be able to say we did not displace a single child here in Orleans Parish. That was not the case in 63 other parishes. Wow. Because we had millage funds available and because we had been very strategic on the front end about how many kiddos may rise up out of the program and ensuring that we could Tetris the funding between the city and the state appropriately. And so I'm really very proud to be able to say that there were significant cuts at the state and we were not feeling those as acutely as other places. You have over 1,000 children enrolled right now in the City Seats program. You have over 800 children enrolled in the state matching program. And you have over 200, almost 250 enrolled in another state program. So together, I want to also call out, and I know that Dr. Fulmore will discuss this, every single state and city funded seat right now is full.
That's incredible. That's incredible. That's incredible.
And Dr. Fulmore is going to tell you about how we did that. The other key thing here is that we have put those city seats across the city, so they again represent every one of the council districts. In addition, what we've done for this year's map is we've also showed you where our wraparound support partners are. So you might recall that a portion of those millage funds are for comprehensive services around the student, around the child, the child, the family, and the teacher. And so we wanted you to see that those are also spread across the city. Last year, we announced a very innovative, kind of novel, first of its kind project with Children's Hospital that provides intensive medical, social supports to our children and families in these child care centers. So we wanted to kind of call out how that went. And so this was the first time doing it. So we had over 1,200 children who were seen by Children's Hospital. Those are services that are pushed into child care centers. That includes vision screening, hearing screening, dental fluoride varnish, as well as any sort of intensive case support that may have occurred. 65 of those children received hard clinical interventions, and 35 of those included intensive case management. So one of the stories I just want to briefly tell you is that I mentioned at the beginning, you have vision and hearing screenings. Many children are not getting them that early in their life, but because of this program are. There was one child in particular, and for privacy concerns, I'm not going to share all the details, but as a result of the screening, we did find out that that family had not known the child had a congenital eye blindness. And so as a result, it was actually related to a far more terminal diagnosis that we were able to catch much earlier. And so while the seats are a major portion of this budget and are key to ensuring high quality early care and education, these wraparound supports are also very literally saving lives. We also had over 100 RTA passes that we administered in partnership with RTA because transportation continues to be one of the biggest challenges to ensuring that folks can get there. We also created a brand new pilot program around substitute pools. So what may happen in a childcare center is if someone's not able to attend, someone has to call out, they end up having to shut that classroom down for the day because the state has so many strict requirements around the ratios between adults and children. We now have a service that is, piloted right now that folks get to actually tap into a pool of qualified people who can come and cover those classes so that we don't have to shut down classrooms when someone's sick or something else happens.
Great.
You also may recall we had another big win. We worked with several of you as part of the comprehensive zoning ordinance work that just happened this spring. So we were able to streamline and modernize some of that comprehensive work. Many centers are now going to be opening a lot quicker than they would have under the previous ordinance. The other key thing is we are piloting a brand new, very first facilities fund. So this facilities fund will both provide support around construction and will also support improvements. And so our partner on that is Nora. So Nora will be facilitating that entire process on the short, for the pilot year. And we will determine, at the end if we're going to continue to grow that and how that worked out for both providers as well as families. One of the most amazing things about this potential partnership is this is where you can start to seed some of these new childcare centers, which has not been a resource available to our community until now. As you can imagine, we continue to get a lot of attention for the work that we're doing here in New Orleans. Specifically, we have shared this story dozens of times at the national level. Just want to point out a couple of them. National funders have highlighted this work. The New America has highlighted this work. Other national nonprofits have highlighted this work. But in particular, there was a story that ran just under a year ago in the Hechinger Report, and it was picked up by Associated Press. And so this means that not only was this story told here locally, but it was in pretty much every major metro newspaper across the country. In addition, you might recall that from one of our monthly reports, we had a new teacher campaign to recruit folks, earlychildhoodjobs.org. And we had a video that accompanied that. And in addition to it being a really pretty video, we actually won an Addy Award for it, which is kind of the equivalent of the Oscars. So I'm pretty excited about that for our firm.
Exciting.
We also integrated a lot of work around retention and recruitment for teachers, specifically using funds both from the millage, the state funding, as well as that wage ordinance that you also approved. We were taking folks to conferences to ensure that they would continue their professional development. We had over 500 teachers tap into a wraparound support related to their mental health. We also provided nearly 2,500 hours of in-person, in-classroom professional development coaching for those individuals. And we were able, through the wage ordinance, to provide over $2 million to just under 1,000 teachers for retention bonuses. So you might recall there's about $750 for every quarter that they stay. The average before this of retention was around 30%. We lose a lot of our teachers within, anywhere from 3 months or now. We had about 80% stay the entire year, so a major increase as the result of this intervention. For year 2, which just began essentially in August, we've made a couple of improvements based on some of the learnings. The first is that we are still trying to very much tap into families whose language is not English or their first language is not English. We have a brand new partnership with an organization called TNOLA, which has provided translation services in all 41 of our sites. It's essentially an AI tool that essentially a family can go in if English is not their first language, and it will translate in real time. We also have new position at our office also to aid families who are interested in learning more about the program. We've also built a brand new partnership with Total Community Action for about 20 seats for if for whatever reason we have one of our children and it's not a good fit where they are at their center, it's very hard to move them to another center because all the seats are full. And so we now have kind of a bank of student seats at one of our most intensive programs where we will be able to ensure that that family can be better served. The other key aspect is that the children that we are serving, just as a reminder, they are low income, they are increasingly the most vulnerable in the city. And so one of the things that we have had to do is grow our wraparound supports, particularly around children who are experiencing lots of different types of needs that perhaps cannot be addressed in a full traditional classroom. And so that includes ensuring that you have mental health consultation for both the child and the family. Finally, just one kind of quick thing, which is, as you know, this CEA, as well as the millage, includes a requirement for an independent evaluation. So we have just received the results of our first year of our independent evaluation, and there's 3 points that I'd like to bring up. The first is that the number of families who have found employment has increased as a result of this program. So at the beginning, we had 16% that were unemployed and we had 27%. Now we have 16% that are looking for jobs. The second is that families over 90% have said they are very satisfied with their education options and highly recommend their center to someone else. The third is that the centers are strengthening as a result. And so we have 100% approval and said that their experience has been positive. It's probably no surprise then that we're going to continue on the same trajectory. We do have a couple of new priorities as part of year 3 for this work. One, and it gets to the point from earlier, is maintain that continuity of care. So ensure that both at the state and local level, if a child is enrolled, they are not discharged for any reason, meaning we lost funding or something like that. The second is really related to that, so ensure that we get as much state funding to match these dollars. We want to continue to anchor and deepen those community partnerships that we've referenced. We want to continue to have very high accountability and communication with the public. We're happy to answer questions, so we would love for anybody who's interested, we'd love to talk more about it. And then continue to refine some of those administrative and data systems. The budget is identical to last year, barring just a tiny 2 to 3% variance. And as a reminder, these funds have to match and be spent commensurately with the state match program. And so the budget that we are presenting today will be the one that we will also present with your approval to the state for matching purposes. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Fulmore.
Can I ask, before I have the final thing, is there any effort the state to go back to matching? Because obviously you're doing so well, the organization is doing so well based on what it has. And if you had the money and it was increased by 50, 75, 100%, we'd be doing even better. So is there talk about, while there's increases and cuts, how this piece fits into their matrix?
Certainly on our part, and certainly on the part of advocates. I think we've been leading and pushing the state in very clear ways on how to expand early care and education in communities and how to do it well. What will be interesting is so many other communities now are kind of taking the New Orleans model and expanding. So for an example, with the state matching funds, when we first started matching, there was only 1 or 2 communities in addition to us. This year, 11 communities have local fund, not necessarily a millage, but they have solicited or found it through philanthropy to be able to tap into that. And so to answer your question a little bit, some of it is also a numbers game, right? Ensuring that there is enough money to support all of the communities that are doing and trying to aspire to do this work. The second is, any support that this body can continue to provide in terms of advocacy would be enormously helpful.
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Dr. Fulmore here on behalf of the Orleans Parish School Board to talk about how we've been working together in partnership with Agenda for Children, the Office of Youth and Families, and our incredible early child care providers to achieve the 100% enrollment that we have in our early childhood seats. So I'm going to talk about it through the lens of 5 strategies that we focused on. The first is through comprehensive family outreach. One of the things that we had to change about our practice is meeting our families where we are and not just relying on them to come to us and our family resource centers. So we started lunch and learn sessions where we were able to hold virtual and in-person engagement with our families so that they can learn about the application process, the documentation that they needed to submit for the early child care seats. And we also had to focus on building family trust. We went through our surveys to see what our family's experience was with our process, and we individually reached out to families who rated their experience a 3 or below to find out how we can improve on our practice. And we took that feedback to ensure that we were changing our approach so that we can better improve the family experience. And what we've seen through our outreach is that we've been able to reach 250 additional families, with more than 75% of them being able to be verified through those sessions. We've also improved our family communication. We've been providing different modes for our families to engage with us through live phone calls and virtual options. We've also updated our application process to provide real-time updates on the status of the family's application. One of the things that needed to change in our practice was the time it was taken for families from the point of submitting an application and hearing from our team about the status of their application and actually making any traction with the process. So now we work with our families within the first 5 to 7 business days of submitting their application to make sure that we make an attempt to contact them and to start gathering their documents. And this helps the process move more efficiently so that we can get them to a seat much quicker. The second strategy we focused on was strengthening our infrastructure. We've had to rebuild our team over the last year, and we've also had to expand our team to include student enrollment assistants. These are individuals who are able to focus their attention on our applications so that we don't have applications sitting that have not been verified, and that has made a tremendous difference in the number of families that we've been able to get a high-quality seat in one of our centers. That has also helped us to see how much professional development was needed in-house for our team working on enrollment and also in our family resource centers to ensure that we all know the same information about the process, how to verify applications, what our families need, what information don't they have access to. So that led us to focusing more in-house on education and making sure we were providing information to our families in easy to digest ways so that they can also follow along with the process. We had to also look at some of the compliance issues that we were having, and so we had to focus on professional development around compliance, because if we're missing key aspects of the application, then the families don't know what they need to correct, and that work has also led to more applications being correct on those initial attempts. Our third strategy has been to focus on technology enhancements. We have redesigned the family application, and we did that by talking to our family members and our providers on how we can better organize the application in a way that makes sense to our families. So we had focus groups, we engaged our providers through a steering committee, and we were able to use that information to make it more user-friendly, helping to reduce errors and more applications that are completed in its entirety so that we can review them for a seat. We also refined our verification questions. We upgraded that process because we realized that a lot of families were being hung up on the way we were asking the questions and the type of questions that we were asking our families. So now we're able to maintain integrity in our eligibility checks because we've streamlined our questions. The fourth strategy we used was stakeholder engagement, building a community of support. We've actually gone out, focused on going out to our early care providers and doing on-site professional development for them, making sure that we're supporting them with the enrollment process that we facilitate.
We've had feedback loops to hear information from our providers and our families to understand how we can improve and refine our process. And I think that has helped to build trust between NOLA PS, Agenda for Children, and our early providers, because we're working together more collaboratively in the process. Also, through the work of Noeen, we have a very, very passionate enrollment subcommittee that represents a number of our providers and partners. And this team has really pushed us on our gaps and our areas for improvement. And I can truly say that through the work that we've been doing together, we have really improved how we serve families and how we get our children in high quality seats. And so the last strategy that I would highlight that we've made a significant investment is in our family outreach campaign. As you can see on the screen, sorry, you might not be able to see on the screen, that we've developed a logo specifically for early childhood enrollment. We've also developed an advertising strategy using television, radio, social media, billboards, bus stops. We've worked to create video series where they see short snippets of how they're seeing families actually going through the process and talking about the experience. We revamped our website to include FAQ. We've also included graphics of the type of documents that families need to submit for the process. And this just makes it easier so that they don't have to do the extra work of trying to figure out what they need. We provide them with examples. And we've also embedded the seat availability section on our website so families are able to see where seats are offered available across our city. Those strategies have been instrumental in us not only having 100% of seats filled in our city seats, but as Jen mentioned, in our other state-funded seats and in our LA4 seats that sit in our charter schools. So our 4-year-olds are 100% full, and we are just seeing tremendous amount of success through our collective efforts all the way around. And so we want to thank the investment of our city council and our city on behalf of the children that we've been able to serve. And as you can see on our budget, it hasn't changed much. We feel like we have the right recipe for doing this work well, and so we are continuing to stay within our budget of these services. And so with that, we will take any additional questions that you have. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I just want to say before we get to Councilmember Green, these comment cards, maybe we can hire you for some additional departments inside City Hall because so much positive work and outcomes and how important they all are. And I know how much we appreciate it. And maybe I'll channel even Councilmember King for a second and some other colleagues. Like, a lot of times it's easy to focus on what's negative or isn't going right in the city, but this is a real success story. And knowing that you're affecting the lives of kids, and as your stats showed, not only are kids getting high quality real seats at no cost, but also their parents are able to go to work as a result too, and how important that is as well. Councilmember Green.
Well, it's not often that I'll say ditto. Just let it stand at that. I'm going to say ditto. I know Councilmember Harris thinks that I'm going to say something else in addition, but good news is good news, and I just look forward to this program continuing to grow. It's going to make such a tremendous difference in the future of our city. And I want to encourage those who are in the audience right now who have invested in this program, reaching out from birth to age 4, to recognize that your efforts are well appreciated, and it makes a difference in our city of New Orleans. Over time, people are going to be looking at the city differently for a variety of reasons. And I think that one of the reasons in the future that they're going to look at us differently is that our students are going to be so well prepared and so successful as they pursue education, and they're going to be more parents employed who are pleased to live in the city of New Orleans and take advantage of these opportunities. This is one where we were first, right? And the other state entities, the other parishes are copying the city of New Orleans because it's successful, what's going on here. So thank you for the Agenda for Children. Thank you for city seats. Thank you for the New Orleans public schools. And I say to our media, there's a lot going on in the city of New Orleans that's great. The people who are in this room are representative of that. The successes that you see here are representative of that. We are a city that does a lot for children, and I'm pleased to be here at this time.
All right, we'll go through the comment cards. Christy Givens, Monique Rouge, Miranda Scott, Ashley Smallwood, Rochelle Wilcox, and Sonia Joseph. So, Ms. Givens up first. You can tell all these people are teachers, their handwriting's so neat, I didn't have any problems. I just, okay. You're a covering teacher. All right, Ms. Givens, you have 2 minutes. Right there. There you go. It's all right.
Hello, everybody. First thing I say, don't let me be first, and you call my name first. Well, hi. My name is Christy Givens. I'm a child care owner. I've been in the business over 25 years. I have 3 child care centers, and in my child care centers, I have city seats, and I have ECEF seats. Early Head Start seats, but what Jen and what Dr. Fillmore said today, I applaud them because the things that they done, what they did, they thought about things ahead of time. So they put strategic plans in place to make sure all these things is in place for early childhood. But one thing I can say, I have a nonprofit business that for providers by providers, and we travel all over the world and go to different states and be on panels and be at conference, and everybody want to be like New Orleans. I am so serious. Everybody, we go talk about this great work they doing, they're like, we need to come, we need to do this, because there's no other city, no other state is doing what New Orleans is doing. And how this impact my parents and my teachers is that parents are going to work every day. Parents are opening up businesses. Parents are being able to know their children is taken care of and they could go follow their dreams. Teachers are being paid. I know y'all set a pay at $15.55, but at Kids of Excellence, we pay our teachers starting pay is $19.70. This is what these seats was able for us to do. And our teachers, I would want y'all to come to my centers to see how exemplary these teachers are and with all the support that these organizations talk about, what they did for us to help us raise and rise and be better every day. And I just want to thank them, and I want to thank you all for allowing this millage and everything else to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. You provide the juice and graham crackers, and we'll be there. All right. Ms. Rouge and Ms. Scott. All right. All right.
So I don't know how I could come behind that, but my name is Monique Rouge, and I've been owning an early child care center for the last 20 years. And what I want to say is thank you. Thank you for the investment in our early learning children. Thank you for the investment in our parents and our teachers. The word that I would use to describe all of these things would probably be monumental. And just like Christy said, everybody wants to be like New Orleans. So I don't have much to say because she said everything, but I echo everything that Christy said before me. The investment that you have actually instilled in New Orleans for children is just, again, monumental. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. Ms. Scott, and then Ms. Smallwood, and then Ms. Wilcox.
Hi, good morning. My name is Miranda Scott. I'm the owner and director of Cuddly Bear Child Development Center. We're located on the West Bank in Algiers. I just want to say thank you to Jen, first of all, and to the councilmen and everyone behind for giving my center the opportunity to grow. I was one of the daycare centers that first started out within the program before the millage. And since the millage, well, they helped me to grow. But since the millage, my center have been able to grow from 91 kids to 124. We have been able to expand the center because of the millage. And my parents have been able we have been able to provide quality care for our kids. My children have been able to be identified with the help of the ladies that's sitting behind us. So it's been a great thing. I'm not much of a speaker, and they know that, but I just wanted to come just to say thanks to everyone.
Thank you so much. All right, Ms. Smallwood, Ms. Wilcox, Ms. Joseph.
Ms. Smallwood just says she supports.
All right, thank you.
I'm Rochelle Wilcox. I am the Executive Director of Wilcox Academy of Early Learning. I've been in early learning for over 25 years. We have 3 early learning centers in the greater New Orleans area. One we just opened at Suno. And that is the one I want to speak about because we were grateful to be able to have some of our city seats on Suno's campus. As a parent that had to bring my little person to school, it was a blessing to be able to have some of those city seats, to give some of those city seats to those parents. We want to work people out of poverty, and that is what these seats do. I am also grateful for Jen and the Agenda team and Dr. Fillmore and their team because I know they work countless hours to make sure that the math mats. And I know that that is hard. But they also know that the providers, the teachers, and our parents need to there is no economy without early care and education. And they see it. And this happens, and the providers get to keep their doors open. To Monique's point, it's monumental. We put our money where there's a 13% return for every dollar that we put in early care and education. And that is where this millage makes the most sense. And our teachers feel valued. We can pay our teachers more. And that I have seen my teachers buy houses. Our teachers can buy a car. Our parents are doing better because we invest in them. So this budget is the best thing that we have done for the city of New Orleans. To Christy's point, all over the world, they're saying you are doing God's work, but we are investing in the great city and the people in New Orleans. So thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Joseph, you bring up the rear. Thank you.
Last but not least.
No, that's exactly right.
Good morning, everybody. I'm probably the old lady in the group because I've been in business for over 38 years. And all that time, I've seen a lot of changes in early care and education, but I've never had a change like this and have never been as supported as we are right now. And that's due to you all, and that's due to Agenda for Children. Without their guidance and their leadership, I don't think we would be here. And without your support, we definitely would not be here. My teachers, my parents, I'm in Algiers. One of my centers, we have 3 in Algiers. One is on Federal City. And the demand is so great, not only for city seats, but private pay as well, that we're looking to expand. The support has been amazing. The parents are so proud to be a part of this program because they know their children are getting quality from all of these centers. We all work together and collaborate to make sure that we're providing the best quality we can give our kids. We provide high pay for our teachers, and we all come together to make sure that we're providing the best we can. And that's really what has made a difference in this entire program. So we want to say thank you. It's working. That should be the headline. It's working. And we thank you so much.
Well, thank you to Agenda for Children for touching our hearts and our heads this morning. We appreciate it.
First day of budget hearings, you know?
Yeah, I know, right.
It's a public service.
Thank you so much. Thank you all very much today. All right, and now for the final presentation for today, Civil Service. As Civil Service gets prepared, a couple of notes. On Thursday, we will have Board of Review before the council meeting. Friday, we have OPCD, EMS, NOFD, the coroner, safety and permits, and code enforcement. And I'm looking at some of my colleagues. I know that the issues with code enforcement and safety and permits budget being cut is going to take us some more time. So we put them at the end So that way we have the requisite amount of time to ask when we want to. Thank you.
I mean, it is.
All right, I'm just going to ask everybody, if you mind clearing chambers so we can just hear civil service as they make their presentation, and we'll give you guys a moment to get set. And I think it should be the last tab should be yours. Thanks, Amy. All right.
Good morning.
Whenever you're ready, Amy and team.
Good morning, council members. I'm Amy Trepanier, Civil Service Director. With me today, I have Robert Hagman and Tia Harrison. Tia and Robert are on our classification and compensation team. So first, we'll go over our progress on our 2024 departmental goals. Our first goal was to continue to work with the city and the Civil Service Commission to revise civil service rules and processes to enhance efficiency, transparency, and fairness in the administration of the merit system. So far this year, we've worked with the Commission to amend 9 rules, and then the Commission has also formally convened a special subcommittee to propose rule revisions with the aim of increasing efficiency. So one commissioner is going to serve on that with civil service staff, and then we'll bring in stakeholders to work with us on those rule amendments depending on the areas of the rules that we'll be amending. And again, that's with the aim of increasing efficiency and administration of the civil service system. In 2024, we wanted to oversee the development and administration of the police and fire promotional exams. NOFD decided not to have a promotional exam this year, so instead we were able to have 2 police promotional exams. We held the captain and major's exams in August. They were administered and scored. That was the first time we've had a captain's exam in, I think, over 20 years. So we were happy to get that completed. Our next goal was to oversee a classification and compensation study. Our contractor began holding stakeholder meetings in July. Draft recommendations will be received in November with a final report to be issued in December. And thank you to Council Member Morell. We will be doing, and the rest of the council, we will be conducting a class and compensation study every 3 years now to make sure that we have data on where our pay plan relates to the market in order to keep city pay competitive. The fourth goal was to transition to the administration of the current training program to a learning management system. Right now, we have 1 person in an access database. We did hit a roadblock with that. We thought we were going to be able to leverage the learning management system currently used by NOPD. We worked with IT on that, but in the end, they did not have enough licenses. It would have cost more to add additional licenses. And then there was an issue in terms of single sign-on for our users outside of the city email system. But we have identified a solution with our current vendor, NeoGov, who we have several other HR modules from, and we think we'll be able to move forward in 2025 on that project with no additional cost to the city. Whoops. Our next goal was to oversee the administration of the Emerging Leaders Training Program to an additional cohort. So in 2023, we did administer that program to 30 city employees, and we're doing so again this year. There will be 4 sessions scheduled in October and November for 30 employees, and the topics covered include leadership and motivation, dealing with difficult people, the art of communication, problem solving and decision making, managing change, and positive and progressive discipline. And so we often sort of thrust our employees who perform well into supervisory and managerial roles and don't equip them with the tools that it takes to be successful in those roles. So the goal of that program really is to give people the tools that they need to be successful in the managing of other employees with the goal to bring excellence in performance of employees in city government. Our next goal was to work with departments to address vacancies through hiring rate increases and or minimum qualification changes. So far this year, we've proposed and had approved 25 hiring rates. We've created 21 new job classifications at the request of departments, and we reviewed 99 different sets of minimum qualifications.
Amy, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
So one of the recurring themes this year, as I feel like it was last year, is that departments want to hire more. I mean, we saw today supplier diversity, saying I have vacancies, plus I want to add 2 more positions. Who tracks the request for either the vacancies that exist or the request for new jobs, and then how long it is before that gets hired?
Certainly. So we track both of those things electronically. To fill vacancies, that's filled through a requisitioning process, all electronic, all time-stamped, all data-driven. It shows each approval along the way of who approved it and when. Same thing for requests to create new positions that don't exist. We have a system called Workflow Gen where we do request those, where we track when those requests are made and the timelines that it takes to approve those requests.
So in theory, the council could say to you, we want to know about Department of Public Works and how long this has been requisitioned and how long this position's been requested, and Civil Service can spit back out to us those details.
Absolutely. So we can tell you when the department put in the requisition. We can tell you when budget, when CAO, when all the approvers approved it. We can tell you what date we sent them the list of eligible names, how many people were on that eligible list, and then what day they filled that requisition with a hire.
And also, is there a record, for example, if there's a register of existing people who've applied and meet qualifications, that a department knows that? In other words, that they don't have to go through a civil service process too?
So they go through a requisitioning process to get that register, but certainly they can call and ask if an existing eligible list is there.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. That was one of our initiatives a few years ago to be more data-driven. We used to do that all through paper that circulated throughout City Hall, and as you would imagine, it was very hard to track accountability. And so now that it's electronic and timestamped, everyone's accountable for pushing their piece through in a timely manner. So our last goal was to oversee the implementation of service-wide pay increases and special retention payments. Rob and Tia worked with the finance department to implement the 2.5% and 5% pay increases for about 4,600 employees in January. And then they've continually worked on those police retention payments, which can be complex. And they did about 190 of those in quarters 1 and 2. Tia is going to go over our 2025 departmental goals, which are largely the same.
Good morning. So our goals for 2025 continue to work with the city and the Civil Service Commission to revise civil service rules and processes to enhance efficiency, transparency, and fairness in the administration of the merit system. Also to work with the Civil Service Commission, administration, and City Council to implement any reasonable recommendations from the classification and compensation study.
So just to comment on that, when we do get those recommendations, we do anticipate that there will be big changes to our civil service rules and our pay policies. And so that'll be something that we dig into and work with the council on amending those rules.
Okay. Another goal is to oversee the development and administration of police and fire promotional exams. So for 2025, we are going to host an NOPD lieutenant's exam and NOFD captain's exam. Also to transition the administration of the current training program to a learning management system. Okay. Oversee the administration of the emerging leaders program to an additional cohort, as Amy mentioned earlier. Work with departments to address vacancies through hiring rate increases and/or minimum qualification changes. And lastly, oversee the implementation of service-wide pay increases and any special retention payments.
I'm going to go over personnel.
For our 2025 budget, we are requesting 26.38 positions. That keeps the current staff allotment for this year. I just want to mention that what we've done over the last few years is we basically promote from within. We have 10 entry-level positions, and I'll be talking about that in a little bit. But our allotment, we're requesting 26.38. It's essentially 2 more positions than we had budgeted in 2024. But the reason for the change, essentially, we're filling positions at a lower level.
So it's not going to result in any additional bodies. Oops. And there's our organizational chart. With the commission, my position, we do have a deputy personnel director position, but that's been vacant for several years. A few years ago, I gave that position up to fund promotions for our department, so that position's vacant. It will continue to be vacant. We have an executive council that reports to the commission, and then our different divisions are our public and employee relations division, our employee growth and development division, our classification and compensation division, which administers pay, our management services division, which administers the appeals process, test development and validation division, that we don't have any current positions in that division. We've contracted out the test creation, and then our recruitment and selection division, which I have to say, check the numbers on applications for this year, and we've already exceeded the number of applications for our positions in October for all of the applications received last year. That's in part to Councilmember Green's recruiting for our positions. So we've received about 26,000 applications so far this year.
Good news.
Yes. So for our proposed budget for next year,
the increase that you see of $113,000 that is proposed by the Chief Administrative Office is essentially paying for the 2.5% employee raises as well as merit pay. We're also requesting $123,000 additional because promotions for particularly our entry-level positions were not funded in this designated amount.
so that, I do want to take a second to advocate for that, because we did put in a request for $123,000 to fund promotions. It's not included here. The administration didn't approve it. But I do want to strongly advocate for funding of promotions. And my understanding is we're sort of taking a wait-and-see approach based on revenues. But we always talk about how difficult it is to fill city positions. But the second piece of that is really doing what's easy in order to retain the people that we do hire. We have just a great bunch. And like Rob said, when we lose a person, we usually backfill the position at the lowest level, and then they can work up through their career series. We have a great bunch of entry-level professional employees right now. They're bright, they're enthusiastic, and they're due their next promotion. It's like a $5,000 promotion next year. We want to make sure that's funded because we want to make sure that we keep people who have choices. I don't want a bright, well-trained person to leave because a $5,000 promotion is not funded. So just want to strongly advocate for that, for the funding of promotions, both in our department and citywide, because it's difficult to get people into city government. When you find people that are really excellent professionals, you want to do whatever it takes to keep those people.
Thank you for pointing that out.
The decline in other operating revenue is because there was one-time budget allotment to pay for the salary survey by SSA, and also the administration made an adjustment relative to a other operating reduction.
Okay. And that's all we have for you today. Any questions for us?
I don't know if there's any questions. And Mr. Burnside has a card. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Well, you managed to take the self-righteousness out of me anyway. Turns out I like you, but here's the problem. The city's still messed up. So whether I like you or not, we got problems, and I don't know if we can solve them. So certainly your department's not the only place we'd like to keep people who have choices, right? And I don't know where the ball lands, because it either lands on the mayor or it lands on the council or it lands on the judges, because they're the only ones elected. All the rest of you allegedly serve elected public servants at some point. And when I go in for a meeting with a chief of fire and the entire fire headquarters doesn't have HVAC, I got to say that a couple of window units and some fans on the floor doesn't sit well with me. And when the city branch library in Central City has been closed at least 3 separate times for at least 5 months in the last 12 months because of air conditioning issues, that really doesn't sit well with me. So I don't know whether to blame the mayor, I don't know whether to blame the council, or I don't know whether to blame the judges, but it's easier to blame you because you're usually faceless and you're not here and and it's easy to pick on the civil service. So since you're here and since you're competent, you need to sit down in a private room with somebody and say, look, guys, whoever needs to request to us because the city is going to lose the people that have choices. People are going to leave this city for a lot of different reasons. The salt wedge is there. Bad public schools are there. But the bottom line is if we can't pay them, they're going to go somewhere else. And we need HVAC people, or we're going to close the NOPD headquarters, and we're going to spend a lot of money paying rent to a 70-year-old Republican who lives in Monroe, which the last time I checked is where they killed black people. So I would suggest that this city is making unwise choices for short-term reasons and needs to invest in long-term city employees who care about the physical infrastructure and regular maintenance of this city.
So we'll say we have proposed some increases for HVAC positions, reached out to Director of Property Management about it, but I have not heard back just yet.
Okay, well, we'll take all that up when we talk to property management about their positions. Just one last note, not for civil service, but one thing we're trying to enforce for all agencies and departments is about a 12 to 15 slide limit. So I know there was one presentation today that exceeded that, and if you're going to do that, you're going to need a dispensation because we just can't have 30 different presentations with 57 slides in it. It takes too long. And while I know agencies are proud of their work, we're interested in what's happened, where you are, and where you want to be. So thank you all very much. That concludes
Thank you,
day
Councilmembers.
one. Thank you all at Civil Service, and we'll see everybody back here